Really dislike Jake Paul. Now, I don't dislike him. I understand him. I want to make something clear. I would still kick the living fuck.
Andrew Tate utterly humiliated Jake Paul on live TV, showcasing Jake's knack for falling short of even the lowest expectations. First, Jake backed out of Andrew Tate's $3 million fight proposal, proving he couldn't handle the challenge. Then, in a desperate move, he dragged Mike Tyson into a staged fight, fully aware Tyson was far past his prime. Exploiting a boxing legend for views and a quick payday perfectly sums up Jake Paul's pattern of chasing hype over real credibility.
Because he's allowed himself to become the biggest clown on the internet, and now he's famous, right? Because he's an idiot, but he has a bunch of money, so he gets to...
Now, Jake Paul's latest move is provoking Andrew Tate into a fight he'll never actually commit to. Why? Because Jake knows he'd lose and is counting on Tate rejecting the offer so he can twist the narrative to inflate his ego. But Andrew Tate isn't taking the bait. Instead, he turned the tables, publicly dismantling Jake's facade and exposing every ounce of his fraudulence for all to see on live television.
You only want to lose to them so you can say, well, I lost to Conor McGregor. Why don't you lose to an old man who's retired? I live in the real f***ing world, Jake. There's a whole bunch of fighters out here who live in the real f***ing world. Men who are dangerous and dedicated.
Andrew Tate turned the tables, accepting Jake Paul's challenge instead of rejecting it. And Jake's reaction? He vanished without a trace, ghosting completely and proving he couldn't follow through.
but I would whoop his ass. But he wouldn't take a fight against me, because when he loses, I'm not nearly on his level of fame, right? So like, he lost to who? Whereas if he loses to Conor McGregor, it's no big deal. Well, he lost to Conor McGregor, who cares, right? That's what it's about.
Jake Paul's entire ploy hinged on Andrew Tate refusing his challenge, allowing Jake to spin a tale about being the fearless warrior no one dares to face. But with Andrew accepting the fight, Jake's plan has backfired. Now in full panic mode, he's backed into a corner with nowhere to run. The so-called fearless Jake Paul has gone silent, once again proving he's all talk and absolutely no action.
I'm not some washed-up UFC fighter. I'm not smaller than him. I would beat the living shit out of him. And if he wants to fight, I'll fight him any day of the week, and I'll fucking wreck him.
Andrew Tate didn't just challenge Jake Paul to a fight. He delivered a brutal reality check so sharp it could have come with a medical disclaimer. Tate flat out called Jake's career a joke, accusing him of reducing boxing to a TikTok-friendly spectacle. It's hard to argue when Jake's idea of competition includes dragging a 58-year-old Mike Tyson into his circus. Tyson, the heavyweight icon who revolutionized the sport, was reduced to a gimmick in Jake's desperate bid to play tough. Andrew Tate summed it up perfectly. It wasn't boxing, it was elder abuse. Jake didn't see Tyson as a revered legend. He saw a shortcut, a way to grab headlines without taking real risks. And the worst part, Jake thought no one would notice. But Andrew Tate noticed, and he made sure the world did too.
However, I do understand what he's doing. I understand that he is very, very smart, even with his marketing angle. I'm just a YouTuber. You're not just a YouTuber. You're a full-grown man with the best coaches in the world who's dedicated his life to learning how to box for years. You know how to box. You're not a complete amateur. You know how to box very well. 3, 4, 5 years of training combat sports. You can box. The guy's not a jackass.
Andrew Tate didn't just challenge Jake Paul to a fight. He delivered a brutal reality check so sharp it could have come with a medical disclaimer. Tate flat out called Jake's career a joke, accusing him of reducing boxing to a TikTok-friendly spectacle. It's hard to argue when Jake's idea of competition includes dragging a 58-year-old Mike Tyson into his circus. Tyson, the heavyweight icon who revolutionized the sport, was reduced to a gimmick in Jake's desperate bid to play tough. Andrew Tate summed it up perfectly. It wasn't boxing, it was elder abuse. Jake didn't see Tyson as a revered legend. He saw a shortcut, a way to grab headlines without taking real risks. And the worst part, Jake thought no one would notice. But Andrew Tate noticed, and he made sure the world did too.
He is not just a YouTuber. He is a young man training with Canelo and Ryan Garcia.
When I made the video, I really disliked Jake Paul. Now, I don't dislike him.
Andrew Tate didn't just challenge Jake Paul to a fight. He gave him a reality check so sharp it could have come with a warning label. Tate bluntly labeled Jake's career a joke, accusing him of turning boxing into a TikTok-friendly circus. It's hard to argue when Jake's idea of competition involves pulling a 58-year-old Mike Tyson into his charade. Tyson, the heavyweight icon who changed the sport forever, was reduced to nothing more than a gimmick in Jake's desperate attempt to play tough. As Andrew Tate aptly put it, this wasn't boxing, it was elder abuse. Jake didn't view Tyson as a legendary figure worthy of respect. He saw a shortcut to grab headlines without taking any real risks. The worst part, Jake thought people wouldn't notice, but Andrew Tate made sure they did.
$3 million. You put 3, I put 3. Winner takes all. You know my name, Andrew Tate. I will fight you any day, anytime. Let's fucking go. If I were to fight Jake Paul, I would take it completely seriously in a real fight, and I'd whoop his ass. I'd beat him. Jake. Everyone thinks he's just so.
Jake Paul's rejection of Andrew Tate's challenge isn't just a strategic dodge, it's a confession. A confession that all the bravado, trash talk, and self-proclaimed titles like disruptor and game changer are nothing but empty words. The moment Jake was faced with a genuine threat, the guy who thrives on being loud and brash went radio silent. And let's not forget his loss to Tommy Fury, which already started his downward spiral. Taking on Tate would have been the final nail in the coffin, and Jake knew it. Even without stepping into the ring, Andrew Tate's public dismantling of Jake Paul was enough to deal significant damage. This wasn't just a roast, it was a full-blown humiliation. Tate didn't just expose Jake's weaknesses, he laid bare his entire persona. To Jake's TikTok followers and YouTube fans, he may still seem like a fearless figure, but to the rest of the world, his facade is cracking. Tate reminded everyone what boxing is supposed to be about: respect, skill, and authenticity. Meanwhile, Jake is just a loudmouth who lucked out by mastering the algorithm. Andrew Tate's psychological takedown of Jake Paul was a masterclass in humiliation. He didn't simply call Jake a clown, he surgically dismantled him. Tate accused Jake of being nothing more than a kid playing dress-up in a sport he doesn't respect. And let's face it, Jake's career is more about TikTok likes than it is about boxing. Tate's savage line, "Jake, your legacy isn't built on fights, it's built on TikTok captions," was so precise that Jake probably needed an ice pack for his ego. This wasn't just trash talk, it was psychological destruction. Jake's paper-thin self-image cracked right in front of everyone. Jake Paul thrives on projecting an aura of larger-than-life confidence, but Tate's relentless verbal uppercuts shattered that illusion. Social media exploded with memes and jokes that hit harder than any punch Jake's ever thrown. Platforms like Twitter and Instagram were plastered with hashtags like #JakePaulExposed and #TateofsJake, with fans gleefully roasting Jake for dodging Tate's $3 million winner-takes-all challenge. The irony? The self-proclaimed fearless fighter was running faster than his hype train. His carefully crafted persona as a disruptor in the boxing world suddenly looked as shaky as one of his over-the-top post-fight celebrations. The backlash wasn't just another day of online banter, it was brutal. Fans, haters, and everyone in between joined the pile-on. Jake, who boasts about earning over $40 million from his boxing career, found himself in a situation no amount of money could fix. Memes labeled him a fraud, a runner, and let's face it, just plain scared. Even his most loyal fans began to question their allegiance. Andrew Tate hit the nail on the head when he said, "Jake, even your fans know you cherry-pick fights to protect your brand." The worst part? He's absolutely right. Jake's avoidance of Tate wasn't just a calculated move. It was a neon sign screaming fear. Meanwhile, Andrew Tate walked away from this entire spectacle without breaking a sweat. Tate didn't need to step into the ring to expose Jake. By simply issuing the challenge and watching Jake fumble, he cemented his dominance. Fans now see Tate as the real deal, a fighter who doesn't need gimmicks or hand-picked opponents to prove his worth. This wasn't just a win for Tate, it was a masterstroke. In an era where boxing is increasingly plagued by YouTubers and Instagram influencers pretending to be athletes, Tate emerged as a beacon of authenticity. His actions reminded everyone of the sport's roots, and his public takedown of Jake Paul wasn't just a personal victory. It was a win for boxing itself.
Two brothers, one cage. Jake Logan, you Tristan. Who comes out alive?
You know what? I'm trying so hard to not start internet beefs. I'm really trying not to.
You could say Jake and Logan, man.
Bro,
Don't worry about it.
No, I can't lie. Bro, I'm going through life. I'm trying to live peaceful now. I've got Fed agents in my house. Matrix is out.
For Jake Paul, this was nothing short of a PR catastrophe. His entire brand hinges on the image of being fearless and willing to fight anyone, anytime. Rejecting Andrew Tate's challenge didn't just sidestep one fight. It punctured a massive hole in that carefully constructed narrative. This wasn't about avoiding a single risky match. It was about protecting the illusion Jake has spent years crafting, and with his loss to Tommy Fury already exposing cracks in his armor, a fight with Tate wasn't just a gamble. It was a direct threat to his entire persona. Jake knew stepping into the ring with Tate could have been the final blow. Andrew Tate's mic drop moment added insult to injury, perfectly capping this roast fest. Jake, you don't need boxing gloves. You need to stay on YouTube where losing isn't as painful. Brutal, accurate, and so cutting it could have doubled as a knife. Jake's projection wasn't just about dodging a fight, it was an unspoken confession. Deep down, Jake knows he's out of his league. Meanwhile, Tate didn't need to prove anything. His legacy is already solid. Jake, however, desperately needed this fight to sustain his illusion of dominance. Now that illusion lies in ruins. The fallout from this debacle is something Jake may never fully recover from. His road to redemption isn't just uphill, it's practically vertical. It's no longer enough to hike his next fight. He'll need to convince a deeply skeptical audience that he's more than just a YouTuber with boxing gloves. And let's be honest, that's a tall order, even for Jake Paul.